So this originally was a Roketa 250cc go-kart, and basically what I did was I took it and everything from pretty much here back I kind of redid and fitted for a GSXR 750 motor, little Suzuki emblem. So pretty much made this thing absolutely insane. Kind of started off by just kind of redoing the whole swing arm setup. Got some custom hubs made for these ATV rims. In here, the CNC boys. Same with the sprocket. This is actually the original bike sprocket. Just had a hub made that would fit it to an 1.5 inch chromoly axle, and it's keyed and everything. And then I've got a couple lock like wedge washers, I guess you'd call them, just to hold the hubs from moving back and forth. On pretty much every hub I've got a couple, just because this thing weighs so much. Kind of a funny one. A couple things here in this frame, but this caliper actually is a Chevy Impala caliper. I was just looking at calipers on Rock Auto, like, man, what would fit well? And believe it or not, this is actually the original go-kart disc rotor. And then I just basically welded this Impala caliper in line and bought some pads for it, and it's actually got fairly decent contact on this thing, so it worked out. These bearings are just McMaster-Carr heavy duty bearings, just kind of bolted to my frame that I made here. Got a little McMaster-Carr idler for my chain tensioner, adjusted by this guy. This is kind of a mess. This actually broke on vacation. I told myself I would only take my welder and this flat bar stock, which is about 5 feet long, and I was like, anything that breaks, I'm going to fix it with that. Sure enough, this tensioner, the actual ear broke off of the bearing, so the bearing housing broke, and the chain kind of threw itself and put a hole right here in this clutch cover and everything. It's kind of a nasty deal, but you know, I brought that stuff, my welder and this metal, to fix whatever happened, and it worked out, and I was able to make it work. Not the prettiest welds, kind of last minute on the sidewalk, but it worked out, and I'll probably redo it later. Moving on up, we got this gas tank and the exhaust. I basically kind of welded just a big loop to support this stuff. There's a bracket right here, it's welded onto there, and then I've got these two arms that basically support the underside of the gas tank. I got my little wiring box here with just a relay, a few fuses, and the coils. So these are actually, you know, these are the original bike coils. I just kind of mounted them up here with some riv nuts. I love me some riv nuts, and just kind of screwed them down. And they're just kind of wedged on there, and plug it into their appropriate spark plug. So that's pretty simple. So this suspension back here, it's kind of a work in progress. What I took to my vacation was pretty bad. It was stiff, and I actually had these QA1s laying around. Kind of flipped them over to get them to fit, but I just got to figure out what spring I need to put on here, what spring rate. And then I can put the purchase on and put the spring on and see how she acts. But when I made this shock mount, I put this kind of like multiple position plate in, so that, you know, you can raise or lower the swing arm based on what hole you have this in. It's also going to change the angle of this strut, so it can also kind of, you know, make a higher or lower spring rate more effective. So a little bit of adjustability there. Coming up front, really the only thing that I changed was put in a Willwood pedal system. So this is actually to the clutch of the motorbike engine. And then this is to the brakes. This thing originally had 2 disc brakes in the front, the one in the rear. So I just kept that, and I've got a Wilwood Master cylinder. I think it's like a 3/4 compact guy sitting up here for the brake. And then for the gas, it's just all hooked up with the linkage. So for this throttle, that's basically just kind of a little leverage joint. So you can't get my hand in there. You pull on it, and it just pulls down off of this bracket that I made. There's actually not a whole lot of throw on those carburetors, because it's, you know, usually on like a hand thing, a twist grip, I guess. So that's pretty much full throttle there, and then that's off throttle. So works pretty decent. This front suspension's kind of a mess. It's super stiff. I'm not super proud of it. I'll probably come back and redo all this later with some longer arms, and we'll see how that goes. But one of the other cool things about this is the shifter. So it's like a sequential shifter, because that's how it would be on the bike. You know, you've got, you know, 1 all the way down, you got your neutral there, and then you just keep shifting through the other 5 gears. And that's pretty much how you drive this thing. Gotta have a good old fire extinguisher, because you don't want to watch your project of several months just burn down. But yeah, this is all factory seat belts, seats, all that. That's how this thing was. Threw an oil cooler up here, because these motors are air cooled, but they have a pretty good size oil cooler on the front of them. I just raised it up here so it was pretty much above your head line if you had 2 people in here, and it's getting all the airflow. So I think for the most part, I don't have a gauge on this motor or anything, but I think it stayed pretty cool. So it's the Gixxer cart.